Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm very well, Steve. Particularly well at the moment because we've just had almost the final touch on our renovations here. And this morning, only about half an hour ago, they left. So we're quite chuffed at the moment. It looks very nice.
Excellent, excellent. You've had a good week then. Feeling good.
It's been a good week. Yes, yes, a good week. And we've got bank holiday on Monday too. So we've got a very busy Broadstairs now. They've got a fair down the front and things going on. So they do, I suppose, being a visitor centre, really, seaside visitor centre, you find that people are, obviously coming in by their train loads and bus loads and car loads and fill the place up, especially on like a bank holiday. Very, very
Mm,
busy here.
mm. I
Good
expect
fun.
when the sun comes out, everyone's on the beach.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's a bit chilly at the moment down there, but we've got on the sea, you get a sea breeze and it can be a bit chilly, but people don't mind that. I do, but they don't. So, yeah, sort of, I saw them all paddling yesterday. So no, it's very nice. It's a lovely place to be, and as you know, and you were brought up here, so you know it so well.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. As it heads into this spring to summer, it gets very busy, but then the hot weather and it really just comes alive, doesn't it? The place, I imagine any seaside town does exactly the same thing. It just lifts and just
Mm.
full of people, including all the locals out and about. Um, Excellent. So this week we've got a YouTube comment we want to mention, which might lead us on to a little bit of discussion, and also a new picture. You finished the picture that we were talking about last week, so we will show everyone that as well. But first, let's talk about this YouTube comment. It was a really lovely comment that came from Mary, and I want to read it out on this podcast. Mary says, hello, I remember seeing you year in, year out at the Business Design Centre at Islington for the art materials exhibition. We came along with a coachload of artists, and my friend and I always made a beeline to see you. You were always so very interesting and explained things so well, so thank you. Regards, Mary. So I just thought it'd be interesting to bring up that show that you used to
Mm.
do and,
Mm.
and reminisce on that time. So what can you tell us about the Islington show, Dad, that you used to do?
Well, the first show, the art materials show, I'd already done quite a lot of work for the Artists and Illustrators magazine prior to the show. So I was sort of set really well to be one of the demonstrators there. And there wasn't many. I think we started off with only about three, but it wasn't at the Design Centre in Islington. This was in, oh gosh, where was it? I can't remember. Isn't it amazing? I can't remember. In London, anyway, but it wasn't Design Centre. It started off, it was just one show there that they had, and it was absolutely heaving, really heaving. And I suppose because I was one of, I think, three, I can't remember whether there were three or four actual physical demonstrators there. Obviously, people gravitated to us, and consequently, we were very busy. And in that show, the 4 day show, and after I think it was the second day, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So with the Thursday and the Friday, we were selling the pastel pencils. This was Carbothello at that Swan Stabilo Carbothello pencils at that time, and they sold out. They completely sold out. They had to get fresh stock in for the Saturday and Sunday. It was absolutely manic. I very, very fond memories of that because I was working from the time they opened to the time they closed, and crowds of people around me, and it was a good introduction to the show. That then went on, the next year went on to the Design Centre, and I think it was Westminster Hall. Was it Westminster Hall? I'll see if I can find out. It was a long time ago anyway now. But when we went to the design centre, and that stayed there for, gosh, 8, 9 years, I suppose it must have been, at least. And I went to every show. And it was very, very enjoyable. It was a lovely venue. And again, people were very kind, you know. But by the time we got to the second or third art material show, demonstrators flocked to the place. Almost every stand had a demonstrator on. So it eked the people out a bit. We didn't get quite so many. Well, having said that, we were still very busy, as Mary, I'm sure, will testify.
So was this, or you were representing Stabilo in the Carbothello range?
To start with, I did, yes, for probably about 3 years. 4 years, 3 or 4 years, I was demonstrating for Swan Stabilo. Funny enough, I've got a little story here. I got approached by Faber-Castell to demonstrate for them, right? This was before the show. I think it was probably about a month or two before the show actually came. I can't remember what date that was. And it was very interesting. And I said, well, yes, they promised me this and they promised me that, which, in fairness, they did fulfill. And I said, well, okay, yes, I'll switch camps. But I couldn't switch camps until after the art material show. So at the art material show, I had to demonstrate for Carbothello, even though I had 1 foot, more than 1 foot, in the Faber-Castell camp. Very interesting. And
So was
they
that
knew it. No, they knew it. The organisers advertised me being there. Everything, all the adverts had gone out. So I kind of had to do the show for Swan Stabilo. But they weren't terribly happy, as you can imagine, because they knew I was going.
yeah.
Never mind, but we got through it, and then from then onwards, all the other shows I did was for Faber-Castell.
So was that, were they near each other? Was that a bit awkward the next year that you were over at the Faber stand? Did they have someone new for Carbothello in at that point?
They didn't have a demonstrator, Faber-Castell. It was, when I say it was Faber-Castell, it was the agency in this country that West Design products that were actually demonstrating, and they were demonstrating more than just the Carbothello pencils. They did an awful lot of different products. So on their stand, they had quite a range of products. But I don't remember them having a demonstrator at that time, at the same time that I was demonstrating. Were they near each other? No, not really. No, it was a big show, vast. No, I can't remember where they were, but they weren't actually that close.
Did Stabilo have a demonstrator after you left? Did they get someone new in?
No, they didn't, and I think they packed up going, actually, West Design at that time. They didn't go, not West Design, sorry,
Stabilo.
Carbothello. I think they packed up soon after that, demonstrating there. There was a lot of internal things going on, and I don't think they continued. No, but at that time, I switched camps, and it was a good thing, a very good thing I did. It wasn't, there was no regrets there at all. Faber-Castell did me proud.
Yeah, and the product itself, if you think about the product, the difference in product and how that shaped the rest of your career, was huge, you know.
Well, funny enough, again, there's stories here, plenty of stories. I was approached by Swan Stabilo, and I said, well, not Swan Stabilo, Faber-Castell, or as it was, West Design, who were distributors for Faber-Castell. And when they asked me to do it, I said, well, to be honest, I love the Carbothello pencils, and really Faber-Castell have got to match them. So she brought me some along, the lady who was organising all this, bought me some of the Faber-Castell pencils to try. And I fished out a white and a black. Now, the reason I did that is because the black it was black. Black is black. But I could have done with more intensity. The white, again, was white, but I could have done with a brighter white. Got me? And as soon as I put the black Faber-Castell pencil on the paper and the white, I could see a difference. That was enough for me to say, well, I can see a difference because I had them side by side. I'll join you. It was very important to me because I'd done quite a lot of work with the pastel pencil, and I knew what I was looking for.
So with just the white and the black, you could tell the pigment was
Yes,
different.
but it run. I assumed that it would run all the way through the pencils, and I was right. I think the other problem with Carbothello, I don't want to knock them because I still think they're a very good pencil. As you know, I still use them. But I did find that they did break. But the Faber-Castell pencils had a glue spot all the way through the lead. You know, the pencil, I call it lead, but you know, it's a pastel. And that stopped the breaking. And I found then, from then onwards, I didn't have the same problem of breakages that I did with the Carbothello. So, as I said, altogether, it was a good move.
Well, thank you, Mary, for that trip down memory lane. That was really interesting, and it's nice to touch on the exhibition circuit that you used to do and refresh people. I think we've touched on it in previous earlier on episodes, but it's nice to talk about it now and revisit it. Let's move on to the picture that you've completed this week. So I'm going to pop it up on screen for everyone now, and this has come out just beautifully. I think that the composition, the background, it's so small, but you wouldn't think it unless you had the measurements along the sides. It looks great, Dad. Tell us about it. How did you find this one?
Well, I found it, again, my usual reference on Pixabay. And you mentioned the composition. That's what sold it to me. I love the composition of that picture. And I thought, gosh, I've got to do this. Originally, I was going to do it bigger than that. I was going to do it my usual size, you know, which is twice the size that I've indicated on there. But then this was before I did the miniature of the lighthouse in the sunset miniature. And so I thought to myself, okay, I think I'll do a miniature. But when I looked at the flowers, I thought, well, it would take a smaller picture very well, but I don't think it would do a miniature. I think a miniature would have been lost. So I then opted for the size that we've got there, which is perfect. And but I would say that anybody wanting to do this picture when it comes up, probably they could afford to maybe have it a little bit bigger, make it a bit bigger. Not too big. It doesn't justify it sometimes, Steve. You know, the bigger, if you've got like the mill that I did a few pictures ago, Maple Durham mill, wasn't it? That had so much in it that it could do with a bigger picture. But this was small and it didn't. And also the flowers, whilst they're very attractive as a picture, I didn't think the tulips really were brilliantly portrayed on the photograph. So I thought that if I blew that up, it wouldn't look quite as nice as it did in that finished picture. All of these things, you see, Steve, I take into consideration before I do a picture. I'm attracted to it straight away from the composition and colours and the background. Now, the background here, when people see the original picture, which they will do on the video because I show them the reference, it had like two tones. That colour that you see there was on the left of the picture. Then it melted into a lighter colour, greyish colour. And whilst that was okay from the photographic point of view, it wouldn't have worked, and certainly I didn't think it would work with the colours that I've actually eventually put in as a uniform colour, slightly lighter on the bottom, the right-hand side and the bottom of the right-hand side of the picture, and darker on the other side. But again, it's balancing it up, and a lot of thought goes into it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear what makes an appealing picture to you. And as we touched upon, it was either last week or the week before, I can't remember, maybe the week before, about understanding more about what you look for to, I suppose it's the same kind of answer really, what makes that picture interesting, or what features of a picture are jump out to you. And I'd say definitely, as you said, the tulips weren't particularly like mind blowing in this picture, so you didn't want to draw too much attention to that and make it bigger. But I would say the composition is what makes this picture so appealing. And then for such a small picture to have the drama of the shading, because it looks like quite a complicated lighting situation with these curved leaves and everything like that. So it's really fascinating to see that actually the tulip isn't the main attraction to this picture. It's the dramatic shadowing, the background, and the composition that make it actually interesting.
That's absolutely right, and that's what attracted me to it. When you look at a picture, first of all, and you're attracted to it because it appeals. Gosh, that really looks lovely. And then you start picking it to bits. You think, yeah, but that's right. Yes, I've got that, not that. But you shouldn't do that, really. You should look at it and say, that's very pleasing to the eye. And so I have that in my mind when I'm doing the picture. Although I do have attention to detail, I also look at it and thinking, hang on, I don't want to make this too detailed. Detailed enough to be representative of what I'm trying to do, but not too detailed. Because otherwise it's lost again. You lose the impact, the originality as it goes. But I did have to do something about the background. I couldn't have done. Well, I could have done, and it would have been okay, but that's not good enough for me. It's got to be stunning, which is how it turned out. I'm very pleased with that, actually.
So would you say, if you designed this one as an intermediate or an advanced, how do you feel about the difficulty of this one?
I think intermediate, Steve. It's not going to be easy, particularly the background is not going to be easy. But the way I've done it and the way people will see how I've done it, it's possible. One of the things that helps a lot is the ground colour. Now, this is on light grey pastel matte paper, and the ground colour there, normally I'd put white or grey, wouldn't I? But in this case, I put 132 pink. Now, 132 is a favourite of mine. I use it a lot, particularly in portrait work and a lot of animals work, where I need that nice pink. Once again, Faber-Castell come up trump here. I could have used another colour, but the 132 I know is a good colour, a good ground colour. It goes onto pastel matte really well, and it rubs in really well because it's got a softness to it. And I knew this before I even put it on. So I thought, well, that's got to be my ground colour. Once you've got that on there, it fills the paper up nicely, and then you can put other colours in. There's quite a lot of other colours go into it. But I've spent time over the last few weeks talking about base colours, haven't I? You can see in this one, you see how important it was. But because it's a pink, it's not a very bright pink. Now, people know, I'm sure, 130 that I've used with the Cretacolor, which is a light pink. Now, I could have used that, but that wouldn't have worked so well because you've got the tulips, which are white, and the 130, which I use in Cretacolor, is also a very, very light colour, and you wouldn't get the contrast between the two. Whereas the 132 is just that little bit darker, and it gives you a lovely contrast, because you've got to get that almost immediately when you're doing, especially I started with the tulips, you've got to have a contrast there, and that's got to be put in. And it's got to react almost immediately for me. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. It is always interesting to hear you just dissect a picture a little bit more. And this, appeals to the flowers lovers out there that really enjoy doing still life. So hopefully this will be an interesting and nice change for not only them but also for others on our website. So excellent. Well, this picture will be coming soon. I'm working away through editing a lot of the projects at the moment. We've the next one we've got coming, which I'm just finishing off, should be up in the next week, hopefully, is the Australian Shepherd. I know that's just a gorgeous one that you've done, and I've thoroughly enjoyed editing it, actually. It's been really interesting to watch you do that. There's so many bits that I've picked out and thought I would love to break this down and talk to you about this, because there's certainly transformations that happen within that picture that I was really a pleasure to watch. So that one is coming out hopefully in the next week. I know there's a huge backlog of things that we're working through, so we are working through them, and we put the husky up, I think, last week or the week before, another animal this week, and then we'll work through different subject matter. But we'll add this one to the list that you've done this week. Do you have anything else lined up next, Dad?
I have. I was waiting for you to ask me that. And normally I say, well, I'm scratching about a bit, but not anymore, I'm not. I've got the next picture I'm doing, Steve, and I can tell you about it if you like. It's sort of a commission, but it's not a commission. It was a picture that I saw. My grandson was at a party we went to a couple of weeks ago, and he brought his young lady along, and we were talking about pictures, and as you do, and she's I think she's a vet or vet's assistant, something like that, and she was saying that, oh yes, I said, oh, well, interesting, and I was talking about animals and cats and dogs and so on, and then she said, oh, we've got a cat. It's a Sphinx. I thought, what? Sphinx, yeah. And I showed interest, as you would, and she showed it to me, and it's one of those cats, very peculiar, really looking cats, but lovable anyway, and it hasn't got any fur on it. It's just skin. Well, I suppose there's fur, but it looks like skin. So I said, gosh, I've been looking for one of these for a long time, because I've done all the furry ones, and I thought it would be nice to do something different. Anyway, she agreed that I could actually do the picture for you or for the members, and I'm sure they'll find it very interesting. I'm going to find it fascinating to do, very different. And of course, once I've finished it, I'll give it to her. So
Lovely.
What I'm also doing, though, and this is recent, she doesn't know about this yet, but I decided to treat it as though our customers, and I'm sure many of them think, well, what do you do about framing? How do you frame it? Well, I'm going to take them through right from the beginning. I've bought a frame already. It's not a very big picture. I'm not going to make it big. I've bought the frame already, which is a lovely frame. Not expensive. You can buy it over the counter as a ready-made frame. But I can do it because once I decided the size of the picture, I then found a frame that suited it. So I matched the mount, not the frame, the mount, to the picture. I thought, okay, that would fit really nicely in this particular. I took a photocopy of the picture with me, so I knew that this was the size it was going to be. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show the people the frame that I chose, how I did it, and how I arrived at the process that I'm now going to be starting on. Then I'm going to do the picture, then I'm going to frame it, and they'll see it, all framed, ready to be housed and sent to the customer. So it's a big project, and I think people will love the process that I go through.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That sounds great. That sounds excellent. What an expansion on what was already going to be a really interesting picture to do. So thanks, Dad. Look forward to seeing how you get on with that. Whole new load of techniques, I'm sure. Something we've never seen you do before. So very exciting indeed. Excellent. Well, if anyone has anything they'd like us to discuss on a future episode, then as always, just get in touch with us via the many methods that are out there nowadays. And we will be back next week to hear how Dad got on with the Sphinx cat. So
Probably how I'm getting on.
I don't think it'll be finished.
This is going to be a bit more involved than I've done before.
Excellent. We'll get a work in progress next week then. Fantastic. Well, we'll leave it there for this week. So thank you everyone for watching and listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your week.